Yeah, welcome to another episode of the Racer X Exhaust Podcast. I'm Jason Weigandt here for Racer X. Thanks for subscribing to the pod, reviewing the pod, liking and subscribing on YouTube. Do all that stuff. I hardly ever ask for it because I don't really care, but I heard it helps, so do it. Today, well, you'll want to like this one because I think it's the best interview I've done this year, and I know we're only 7 weeks into the year, but I think this might hold up all the way through Christmas time. We'll come back and check. Look, there's been so much talk about Eli Tomac switching to Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha, and then so much talk about the success that he's had very quickly with that team. 2 wins, leading the standings in Monster Energy Supercross. But as much talk as there has been, not much of it has come from Eli. You know how it is. He's just not a talker. He doesn't get in depth about many things for whatever reason. He's been asked over and over about the motorcycle and the team in press conferences for weeks now, and we only get a little bit. So I decided to go a different direction. Jeremy Coker is the team manager for Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha on the 450 side. So I'm like, man, I've talked to him before. He tells you a ton of stuff. So we're going to get the insight into Eli's bike, how they came to sign Eli, the pitch to get him on the team, including the fact that they said, hey, we are not going to be able to offer you as much money as Kawasaki is, but we think you'll be happier over here. And also their philosophies on the bike and why they might have an advantage over factory teams and that freedom thing that we keep hearing from the Tomac camp, more freedom to try more things on the motorcycle. Jeremy Coker will flesh that all out. So we'll get to that in a moment. I want to thank him for the time. He just had a new baby, actually, and had to skip the racing over the weekend, so he still found time to do this interview. These guys at Star, they are dedicated to the craft. And so are our sponsors, like the folks at Yoshimura. Go to yoshimura-rd.com and check out the RS12 exhaust system for your motocross bike, be it a Honda. Of course, you know they have it for those, but also Yamahas and Kawasaki's, the Austrian brands, and of course, Suzuki. Go to yoshimura-rd.com. Check out all the different things they have. It might actually make you interested in buying a motorcycle you never thought about. I'm on the website now. I'm looking at the Triumph street bikes that they have exhaust for, a Honda Africa Twin. They love the Honda 125 motors and the Groms, for example, and the Monkey. So go to yoshimura-rd.com and check out an exhaust system for your ride. Also, Leatt, different people ride for different reasons, yet there is a common denominator that binds everyone who puts their body on the line for the sheer enjoyment of it, and that is what Leatt offers as a brand. They make protective wear, helmets, goggles, riding gear, knee braces, boots, and of course, neck braces, covering riders from head to toe for both moto and mountain bike. But what Leatt really stands for is the promise of things to come. They are in the business of making sure you have the confidence in the equipment to push yourself faster, harder, and further than you thought you could go. Visit them at Leatt, Leatt.com. And watch out for Mitch Oldenburg, 250 Supercross East starting this weekend. He has been very solid in the 450 class, now switching to the same 250 that Vince Freeze just got on the podium with for East. Freckle, actually, he's got some Minnesota roots, probably inspired. Could be a surprise weekend for him. Also, our podcast is sponsored by On Track School, the K-12 distance learning school for students who are on the go. Chase your dreams and blaze your trails with nothing holding you back. There are no limits to what you can do, and the classroom is where you make it. On Track School meets you where you are with a flexible, personalized education that happens at your own pace. So pursue your dreams and your education with On Track. And after the episode, be sure to head over to ontrackschool.com. That's ontrackschool.com. Use the code RX22 for $100 off your registration fee. And also a shout out to Racer X, new magazine. I'm working on it right now. A story on behind the scenes, how they manage Jet Lawrence's time with all this stuff that you see him doing, these high profile things that you would think would maybe take his focus off of racing. How do they manage all that? I'm going to work on that story for the next issue. It'll culminate with this Minneapolis opener this weekend. So subscribe to the mag. Go to racerxonline.com/Weege to subscribe. We'll send you the coffee tumbler in the mail for free. It's only $30. You can read everything in the magazine on the website if you're a subscriber. Let's get to the theme song and Jeremy Coker. Podcast. 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 Podcast, 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 podcast. Okay, huge thanks for doing this. It's probably busy enough managing all these riders and teams and California and Florida, and I know you're a new dad. I wanted to get you on because obviously this Eli thing has been a huge success. We know Eli's never going to tell anybody too much, so I want to get your perspective on it. But first, I just want your background. You've been part of the team for a long time, and I know you go way back in the sport, right? Aren't you and Christian Craig brothers or something? So explain your background in motocross and then getting on this team and how long you've been there.
Yeah, so Christian is my brother. Yeah, we have the same mom. We're different dads. So obviously been in the around and in the industry since day one of my life. Obviously went to all of Mike's races and all that stuff. So been around the industry forever. Tried the riding part of it. Didn't have those genes. Um, Luckily, with having a ex-pro racer, he was smart enough to say, "Hey, you don't got it. Christian has it. You're out, he's in." And I was fine. Obviously, I really liked it and wanted to stay in it. So from a young age, I just picked up tools and started working on Christian's bikes and not knowing what I was doing and just figured it out as I went. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. My first professional team I was on was Troy Lee Designs. I worked for Tara Geiger in 2010. And then that was a really fun year with her and learning the ropes of everything. And got after that, worked for Christian for a year at Troy Lee as well, as a mechanic. So that's kind of how I got started. And then after that, I had the opportunity to manage a small race team, 5150. We had Jake Canada on the race team and actually had a really good season. I think we were privateer team of the year and so on and so forth. So from there, in 2014, motocross season, 5150 was Supercross only, so motocross season, I was approached by Brad Hoffman to come work for Anthony Rodriguez. Did outdoor season with him, and then at the end of the outdoor season, Brad said, "Hey, do you want to do engines?" And so from there, I took over the engine department in 2014 or 2015, and did engines all the way up until 2019. Mm-hmm. And then we got the 450 program, and once again, Bobby and Brad approached me and said, "Hey, would you like to manage this team?" And it was a big pill to swallow, a big challenge, but they know that I like challenges and I was up for it. So I accepted the job and looked at it as this is my time to shine and I better do something.
It's really interesting because Christian ends up coming over to the team. I mean, I'm sure you talked to him about it, but everyone assumes he's going to Star because Star is good. Or were you behind the scenes like, "Hey man, you should come here"? Or is it just a coincidence that you end up on the same squad?
No, it's actually kind of funny. Bobby's been trying to sign Christian for many years, even before Christian's retirement. And then once he retired and came back to racing, obviously it was his father-in-law owned the Geico race team. So he wrote for Jeff. And we even tried signing him every year that he was there. Like, "Hey, I got you. I even have him a contract. Take a contract over to him." And I was like, "I can't do it. I can't do it." Mm-hmm. Kind of felt, he had a good thing going there. And obviously with Jeff on the team, he kind of felt like he needed to stay there. And then obviously we approached him again, even before knowing that the team was not going to be a team anymore. And at that time, he was even told that, "Hey, you're not going to have a ride next year with Geico. The team's full with their amateurs coming up." So it was my perfect opportunity to swarm in again and get him the job. And so we did, and then all that stuff happened, and it worked out. A lot of people think that, oh, he knew that was happening, or we knew that was happening. It's not true. We've actually been trying to sign him for many years.
Yeah, so you're saying when you were approaching him, he was looking for a ride because he wasn't going to be back on the team, not that the team was going to go away. Like, you guys did not know that yet.
Correct. He was told, like, "Hey, I can't remember who it was, but we have so many X amount of pros still under contract. We have these 2 or 3 amateurs coming up. We, don't have room for you. And, it's just time to maybe go find another ride." Yeah. Jeff called me and said, "Hey, this might be a good opportunity to get your brother on your team." And so, yeah, we just attacked Bobby and made it happen.
What's funny is, though, I think we all look at Star as one team, but how much do you really work with Christian or the 250 riders in general? Aren't you more of the 450 team guy?
So last year, it was strictly just 450 side, and we were at two different shops. The 450 team was ran out of Cypress location, 250 team was ran out of Marietta. Now we're all under one roof, and I have a lot more to do with the 250 team as well. They have 11 riders and only one team manager, and Jensen's new at the program, so I stepped in this year to help take over a lot of the computer paperwork, the stuff that takes a lot of time. I only have two riders. Eli's not here full time. So I'm able to help out on that aspect. So I'm really involved with the 250 team. And also we have Christian pitting out of our 450, not pitting, his bike's not there, but he stays in our 450 truck at all the races. We have an extra locker because Eli uses motorhome. Obviously the 250 truck's very full, not at the moment, but it will be. And just to try something different with them, keep them away from the noise of what can go on in the 250 truck and keep them focused and motivated and try to treat it just like he would be at a practice track. So I'm really involved. I'm actually involved with Christian every day, even on Saturdays.
Oh, okay. So actually, it's kind of morphed back together. So you're more involved with the 250s even this year than last year, the way it's turned out.
Correct.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so it is kind of like one star, and I have to ask about this Florida thing. It's such a unique situation. First of all, I'm sure it's been stressful setting it all up, but now that you have the shop and the track right out the door, go riding, you have to be seeing a million advantages to this situation.
The advantages are endless, and opportunities, and what we can do out here will never reach the ceiling of what we can do out here. I'm sitting in my office right now, and I turn right to my right, look out my window, and I see it every track. I was just sitting here typing emails, watching Jeremy and Levi ride. So what can be done here is incredible. You show up to work, and you don't have to get back in your box fan or back in your car and drive to the track and drive home. So when you have something like this, you can get a lot more done in a California atmosphere, not even just California, but any other atmosphere where your shop's at one location and your track's at another. You end up spending 6 to 7 hours a day in a vehicle, just sitting in traffic, driving back and forth. So what can be done here is incredible. We are all under one roof. We have a really big race shop now we've built out here, and everything is done here. All of us, so the riders show up here, we push the bikes right outside the shop and we go ride. Anything that needs to be done or changed, we can do it right here. We have everything right at our fingertips.
Yeah, so has there been a situation where something that would have been like, okay, we'll go back to the shop and work on it tomorrow and try it later in the week, normally, where you actually did it all in one day? Has that actually happened like during the off season?
Yeah, absolutely. there's times where we are riding, not so much on 450, but on 250 side, and power is a really important thing. We'll be riding outdoors or Supercross, and the rider will be like, man, I would really like to have this. And, back then it'd be like, all right, we'll go tomorrow and we'll spend a day on the dyno and mapping and change this. And now it's like, hey, take the dyno bike, throw it on the dyno, and 30 minutes later, boom, here you go, try it. So,
wow.
It's incredible.
Now, what was the management during this West Coast swing that you were on? Did everybody somehow hole up in California somewhere? Did you guys go back and forth? How did that all work?
Yeah, so the West Coast 250 riders, and then Eli and Dylan. Obviously, Eli and Dylan both still have a house in California. We still have full access to Yamaha's headquarters in Cypress. So we moved all the riders and mechanics to California for the 7-week West Coast swing. And myself, Jensen, and Brad kind of switched off 2 weeks of staying out there and staying here because, we still had the East Coast guys here training plus amateurs. So we as management couldn't be there the full time or be here the full time. So we moved the riders and the mechanics out there full time. Got an Airbnb right by Yamaha and just made it work. And so that was obviously a little bit like, oh crap, we moved to Florida.
Yeah.
And now we got to go back. So, but that was that's how it's going to be, and now the rest of our 17 rounds is on this side. So we only have to spend 7 weeks there, and then the rest is here. And so it works out.
And then Brad and Bobby, I'm sure, are still pretty involved too. How's that scheduling work?
Yeah, Bobby's obviously will be the main boss till the end. And Brad is what we call kind of adopted the name from F1. He's the team principal. He oversees both race teams, and still 100% in charge of R&D. So it's actually was kind of nice with having me have a 450 manager and a 250 manager, and Brad can focus more on R&D. You know, when there wasn't that and we were scattered between two groups, he was pulled in too many different directions and couldn't focus on making and improving the bike. You know, and obviously people probably think, how can the Star Racing 250 get better? Can always get better, but it takes time to make it better. And obviously we were trying to build this 450 program, you know, pull it back out of the grave, and that took a lot of work. So he was able to do that and not focus on management. So he's more research, development, mapping. That's his department. That's what he thrives on. That's what he lives for. So he's able just to solely focus on that, and then answer, you know, important questions for me as being my boss. So
Gotcha. Hey, when we talked last summer, one of the coolest things you explained, we heard this crazy deal that your bike was like 9 to 12 pounds or something lighter than the old Yamaha factory 450, which doesn't make any sense to anyone at all. So could you just explain a few of the processes? Maybe it's even lighter now, how you're able to do that? Because we consider factory motorcycles to be close to the limit, and you found 9 or 10 more. So how did you do that?
yeah, it's funny when people kind of think that, like, oh, a factory bike, surely it's going to be the lightest bike possible, but that's not the case. Most of these factory teams throw, and you always see it in pictures, this data, that data, throw this sensor on, throw that sensor, do this, do that, trying to treat it more like a, and it's not an F1 car, it's a dirt bike. Treat it like a dirt bike. You don't need all of this data and all this sensors. And so that stuff weighs a lot. And just pulling that stuff off, you don't need that at a race. So just pulling that stuff off. And then there was a lot of other things that we spent months and months before taking the team over, all the way down to more titanium bolts, aluminum bolts, cutting plastic, cutting collars out that you don't need, designing special bolts. Our muffler alone is almost 2 pounds lighter than what they had before. And that was just months and months of development with FMF. You know, we made a clutch system lighter. We made the heaviest part of that motorcycle, of this motorcycle, is the engine. So the stuff surrounding the engine, you can only get so much off. And just taking that engine and taking as much weight out of the engine as possible was our #1 goal.
Wow. Okay. So this all leads to a phenomenal summer last summer with Dylan Ferrandis. You win the title. And we already knew by that point that Eli Tomac was coming on. I saw this Yamaha video that just came out where you said you wanted to add years to Eli's career. You thought you could motivate him and the whole team could get him going, because he was at the point where a lot of guys at his level choose to step away. So it wasn't just a mechanical thing. As a person, you thought you guys could breathe some life and keep him racing for a few more years. That was cool when I heard that.
That was my #1 goal. You know, you get somebody like an Eli Tomac, who is obviously a multi-time champion, and then we step in and we take the outdoor championship, but you see him right there and you see him at the podium, and you know, like, all right, this guy's got more in his tank. He has to have more in his tank. He wouldn't still be training and pushing as hard if he doesn't. And then you get people saying, oh, it's Eli Tomac last year. And I get to talking to him, you know, and I noticed that he's not enjoying the sport anymore. He's not having fun. He's not coming to the races with a smile on his face, or leaving the races with a smile on his face. And so that's when I took it to heart of, you know what, not only do I want to get Eli Tomac on my team and have him win championships, but I wanted to come to my team, be at the track every day with a smile on his face, laughing, enjoying the sport like he used to in the amateur days and at the beginning of his pro career, when it was fun. And, you know, eventually, no matter what, how much fun you have, this turns into a job. And the day that it's something that you love turns into a job is the day that you want to step away from it. So in order for me to create this as a fun thing, that the reason he started doing this, that's my #1 goal. And I feel like we're achieving it. Not only are we achieving major success with him, but he smiles, he laughs, he talks more than I've ever seen him talk. He's a riding a wheelie going into the finish line at A2. I mean, that's huge, you know. And I think a lot of that has to do with our program and having him ride with all these young kids and being around, you know, they have nicknames for each other. They're giving Eli Tomac a nickname, you know. It's like, that's something big, I think, for him. all the way down to him and Dylan get along really good. We did some preseason testing in Arizona, and they actually drove together. When would you ever think that they would drive to Phoenix and back together? So the camaraderie between them two and the 11 250 riders and our whole crew has just created this as a fun aspect for Eli and his family. All the way down to John Tomac has a headset that he wears at all the races with us. And that's something that to get him to enjoy it again. To be more involved, and he brought Eli up. He knows what Eli's capable of, and when you try to pull that aspect away from the rider, that's when stuff gets funky. So if you can bring them back together of why they were so successful, I think that's a lot to do with why we're so successful with him.
Yeah, that's crazy because I think we think motorcycles and technology, that's the number one thing. But you had this vision all along. And when you were approaching Eli to maybe ride for the team, did you pitch him with that? Not just our bike is great, but hey, personality-wise, we think we have something for you. You were thinking that all along, and did you tell him that when you were first discussing with him?
Absolutely. Approaching Eli Tomac was a big deal. Luckily, I know him on a personal level from amateur days. Him and Christian raced amateurs together. But approaching him was obviously everybody knows he made a ton of money over there. And so me going to him and saying, hey, I want you on the team. I can't pay you what these guys can pay you, but I can give you something they can't, and that's happiness and having fun again. And not saying that they can't do that, but something they're not doing. I can step in and I can do this for you. You're going to have to take a major pay cut, but hey, let's go have fun. And that was the more appealing to him than taking home a big paycheck.
And let's not forget, if you win a couple extra races or titles throughout the year, you make some of that money back anyway, right?
Correct. Absolutely. And that's obviously what I told him. I said, hey, you may not have this guaranteed money, but with what I plan on doing with you, you're going to make that back in a heartbeat.
Quick time out here on the show. Thanks to Jeremy again for the time and the brutal honesty. Clearly not holding anything back. And also thanks to our sponsors, Yoshimura, On Track School, Leatt, and of course, RacerX itself. Subscribe to the magazine, leave the lights on. And by the way, I just want to mention we have a live podcast taping coming up Friday before the Arlington Supercross. We're going to do one Friday this week in Minneapolis, but we've already sold that one out. But you can actually watch it if you subscribe to the Spot Network. I think it's $4.99 a month, and you can watch our Friday show from Minneapolis. Should be fun. Myself, Mathis, Jason Thomas, Chris Kiefer. I believe we're going to get Phil Nicoletti over there. We're going to cut off Darkside's ponytail from the MotoX Pod Show, donating money for charity or something like that. I don't even know. Yeah, I think there is a charitable element. Yes, there is. I think we're doing it for St. Jude. Might even get Ryan Dungey to come over. So go to the RacerX site, the breaking news link, and you can see how you can subscribe to the Spot Network to watch this show on Friday. And if you're planning on going to the Arlington Supercross next week, well, buy tickets and come hang out with us, bench race with us, watch our live show in Arlington. Check it out. Again, all the information is on the racerxonline.com site. Just check out the breaking news link, and we will see you Friday night before Arlington. Buy your tickets now. Our show goes 7 to 9 p.m., or you can go to Mathis's grubby pulpmx.com site and get the information there. See you in Dallas, everybody. These shows are fun. Now back to the podcast. Now the bike thing. Obviously, that's gone phenomenally well. Are you a little surprised that it happened this early? We're 6 weeks into the series, and he's already hitting on all cylinders. Or did you have internal confidence in your own machine? Or was there something you saw in the offseason where you're like, yeah, this is going to be good? Or is it a little surprising?
Not surprising at all. Yep. Obviously, last year was our very first year. We needed that whole Supercross season to learn the motorcycle, to learn what the motorcycle needs. And also, last season kind of screwed us with not being able to test during the week. And I'm sure every team will tell you the same thing. When we had these 3 races in a row, we didn't get to develop the motorcycle like we needed to develop it. So you notice, the beginning of Supercross, we weren't that great. We had that break. We were able to come here and test before Daytona, and boom, we broke out. We started getting better and better and better. And so we needed that time. Then through the outdoors, we continued to develop our bike. Even though it's motocross, it's still very similar of what we're doing to the bike for the following year in Supercross. We won outdoors. That instilled confidence in us and confidence in the motorcycle. And then getting Eli on the bike, honestly, we showed up to his house in Colorado with the motorcycle, his handlebars on it, Dylan Ferrandis's motocross suspension. The plan was to ride 1 week of motocross before we even switched to Supercross. He rode 2 days of motocross, got off the bike and said, I can win on this bike. That to me was like, all right, we're good. And so then we switched to Supercross and we started doing testing, and everything was just flawless. We didn't have to change tiny things throughout the off season with him. And we were very confident going into Anaheim, very confident. And that Anaheim one knocked us back. It kind of boom, set us back on earth, and it was time to go back to work. And we knew what we had to work on. And luckily, with the group of guys we have around us, our suspension guy Ricky and the crew chief Rich and everybody together, we focused quickly and fixed the issue immediately. And that's, I think, but not only that, I think, and it's no secret that Eli Tomac has always been a late bloomer in the season. And the reason behind that is, and I think he said it publicly, is he confined himself too much in the past. And getting him here preseason, riding with 11 250 riders and amateur riders and having to pass amateur riders. And that is why we're at right now. That is why Eli Tomac already has the red plate, because when you ride by yourself for so long, it takes you that many races to learn how to pass people again and to learn how to jump next to people. And he knew that. And him and John Tomac, we talked about this preseason. Hey, I need you out here riding with my guys so the beginning of our season goes better. And they agreed to it. And now everybody's like, all right, that worked. So that's why we're in the position we're in now.
It's so funny because, he said also, Anaheim 1 kind of like, oh, we had to reset a little bit. But I feel like he rode good at times. Not the main, but I feel like press day looked good, practice he looked good. But overall, no, Anaheim 1 wasn't what you wanted. The result wasn't what you wanted. But I thought I saw signs even in the qualifying laps, but it wasn't what you were looking for?
No, absolutely. I said this to my guys all day, and even at Oakland, I said, hey, guys, we got daytime down.
Yeah.
Our bike during the day is
Yes.
amazing. Our riders are amazing. And that sun sets and something happens. And I think that was kind of our fault. We built maybe a qualifying bike and not a main event bike. Because, how much better can you get than 1-2 or 1-3 in qualifying? You're thinking, shoot, we're on top of the world. We're going to go crush this thing. Yep. And the sun goes down, the lights come on, and it's something happened. But a lot of that has to do with, our starts were pretty poor. And when you have 15 guys in the 450 class that can win, we've seen 4 different winners, I think, already. It's not easy to get a bad start and beat those guys. So, you see it every week in and week out, that if you don't get a top 5 start, you're probably not going to win. So that was more what we had to focus on, not so much the rest of the bike, but get our starts better. And so that's what we went back to work on. But absolutely, there and Oakland, we got a daytime qualifying team and bike, but we got to figure out the night show, and then it showed that we figured it out.
But we always hear about how gnarly and hammered these tracks are in this era of 20-minute mains. There is something, I'm sure, to the last 10 minutes of a main versus when the track is fresh at the beginning of the day, right?
Absolutely. And that's one thing that we also have a little bit of advantage on our test tracks. When we have 13, 14 guys riding our test track, it gets to that point. When you only have 1 or 2 guys on the test track, and then you're prepping it every couple of days, your track is never going to develop like a main event does. Even with 14 guys on our track, we still can't get it to what it is at the end of a main event. You go after a podium, 450 podium, and you go walk around those tracks, it looks like a GNCC. It looks like, how are these guys doing this without walking their bike around? So, you have to ride a beat up track, and it's a fine line. It really is a fine line, because you don't want to ride a track like that every day because it's dangerous. But you need to ride a track like that every once in a while to be ready for the race. So, you get these guys and we let our track go and get rough, and they're like, hey, we really need to prep the track. I'm like, yeah, but we don't go over to dirt work and say, hey, we really need to prep this track. They don't care. It's not going to happen. But at the end of the day, there's safety throughout the week is important, because we have to make it to Saturday. So sure. It's a fine line, but we're getting there. It's a learning process for us now that we also have our own tracks. In California, we didn't have the option to jump on the skid steer or the dozer and go fix the track. Now we do. And the riders take a little bit of advantage of that. Like, we really need this fixed, or we really need that fixed. And at first it was like, okay, we'll fix it. And now we're backing off, and we're treating it a little different. Being like, no, we need these tracks a little more rough. So it's been really good.
What's interesting is, so Eli would ride by himself. You're able to say, like, now we're not going to do it that way, and we'll be better at the beginning of the year. Also, look, he's never been known as a great starter. So it sounds like the same thing. Like, you just weren't willing to accept that. We're going to try to fix it. Whether you are or aren't, we're going to do our best to fix that problem. And the starts have gotten better. That's for sure.
Correct. And that's one thing, at the beginning, everybody's like, oh my gosh, his starts are so bad. And I had to kind of step back and go, man, is it us? Is it the bike? What can we tried everything. We're trying. And so finally I did some research, and, I can't remember the exact number, but his 450 career first lap position is not good. And so I said, hey, we need to not only improve our motorcycle, but you need to improve you. And that's what it came down to. We made small tweaks here and there, but it came down to him finally going, you know what, I need to improve me. I need to change what I've been doing. And that's another thing, was when in the beginning of his 450 career, his starts weren't that great, but he still was winning. So he never thought, like, I need to fix that. Now, like I said before, when we have 10, 15 guys that can win, starts are important. So you have to change a little bit of your mindset and go, okay, now I have to be better. Not only does my motorcycle be better, but I have to be better. And, we changed some technique stuff, and boom. We came out, and, Glendale, we ripped hole shots this past weekend. We were right there in the front. Once you believe that you need to start and want the start, you're going to get the start. So that's one thing you have to keep instilling as riders. And that's something that I've been working with Dylan too, is believing. You have to believe that you can and that you will. And once you believe it, you're going to do it.
What's fun about your team then? So we always joke with Bobby about, like, he's the old football coach. He's not afraid to get on his guys and hold them accountable. A lot of teams don't want to do that. Your team is both. We're trying to be fun and have a good time, but we will also hold you accountable at the same time. How are you balancing those two things? Because it would seem like you can't do both, but you are doing both.
Absolutely. It's a fine line. But it's a fine line between being your best friend and being your coach / boss, whatever football coach or boss. And you see that in a lot of sports. I mean, you see it in Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay. I mean, they just won the Super Bowl. And if you watch stuff with him, he's these guys' friend, but he's not their best friend, because he knows that there's times that I'm going to have to yell at you and set you in your line, but there's also times I'm going to have to pat you on the back, and we're going to have to get along. So that's how we take this with these guys. It is a football mentality. And it's not just a football mentality. It's any professional sport mentality. You have to be able to go to dinner with these guys, and you have to be able to chew them out. So it's a fine line. You have to, when you leave the track or you leave the race, you have to leave that mentality there, and then be these guys, be there for these guys in times that they need you. So that's where we're at. We're gonna pump you up with confidence. We're gonna tell you, we believe in you. You're the best thing out there. But we're also gonna tell you, hey, you need to step it up, or get your crap together and figure it out, or do something. So yeah, if you have a bad night, I'm going to tell you have a bad night. I'm not going to pat you on the back and say, it's all right, we'll get them next week. No, let's figure out what happened and let's go fix it. So yeah, it's definitely a fine line, but I think we've perfected that fine line.
Yeah, but what's impressive is, look, Eli Tomac is a huge name. He's accomplished a ton. Same thing with his dad. I think some people would be afraid to even do that to them because they're so established. They have so much credibility. And it's probably a little intimidating, especially when it's the first time that you're working with them and you're all feeling each other out. So I think it's impressive that you guys were like, no, we're just going to treat him just like we treat Nate Thrasher, who's 2 years into his pro career. That's not easy.
Absolutely. And it is different. Don't get me wrong. It is different when you have this 450 team and the 250 team there. It is different. I can't, tell these guys they got to, you're not training hard enough.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not doing
Yeah.
this. They are.
Yep.
And they know it. There's nobody harder on these guys, on Dylan or Eli especially, than themselves. There is
Right.
nobody harder than themselves. So I will still remind them. And I have this thing that I live by. It's I'll never tell you no, but I'm going to tell you I told you so. So when they want to do something or try something different, sure, let's try it. I don't think it's going to work, but let's try it. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to tell you I told you so. So that's something I tell my guys all the time is I'll never tell you no, but I will tell you I told you so. So that is a fine line with these two multi-time champions, not only Eli, but Dylan as well. So you have to walk a little bit on ice for sure.
You hit on the point that everyone's making about this more than anything else, the freedom thing that they keep talking about, where your team is a factory team, kind of, but you're able to give the rider what they want. And that sounds like the simplest thing on earth, but I've talked to factory teams. They're like, we know the bike. We know what direction doesn't work. We can't just try everything all the time. You guys are getting credit for having more freedom, more flexibility. Can you speak on that? Do you feel like you have more flexibility than a traditional factory team would at this level?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have no red tape. I am an open book to try anything and everything that Eli, John, Dylan, DV want to throw at me. Just like I said a minute ago, I will say no to nothing.
Okay.
But if it doesn't work, I am going to let you know.
Yeah.
I told you it wasn't going to work. So yes, freedom is there. If these guys want to try something, no problem.
Okay, and that's just the difference to being a factory team. Like they just have more layers or permissions to go through, or maybe you don't even know why. Why do you think that is?
No, yeah, for sure. The factory level is they have a lot of people to answer to. When you are a direct factory team, your answers are coming from Japan or Austria in some people's cases, and it takes 9 people to ask, can we do this? And by the time that 9th person says yes, you're probably a month into this situation. For instance, we had practicing these starts. We had these 5 different clutch levers and went through all 5. And at the end of the day, Eli goes, man, I would really like one in between. I drove down to ARC that day, and the next day we had one in between. So there is no, I don't have to ask anybody. If they want it, I just go make it happen. We have the capabilities with factory Yamaha. We have a full machine shop at Yamaha that can produce something that day. If I need a linkage, they'll produce it that day. So nothing is welded to my motorcycle. And that's, I think, the biggest advantage is I can change anything.
But there are certain things, like you said, told you so. You probably have tried a lot, or even maybe Yamaha in Japan have told you, if you go this direction, we know in the end it's not going to work out. There are those things as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But and that happened when we first took over the race team. Like, oh, we've tried that. Oh, we've tried that. Yeah, but I haven't tried that. Okay. So until I see it with my own eyes, or Brad or somebody on our team, we're going to try. So I don't care if you tried it with somebody else or you tried it in Japan. I want to see it. So because every rider is different. Maybe because that one rider didn't work, it's going to work for this rider. So yeah, that's where I think that's the difference is we don't say that, well, it didn't work for Chad Reed. There's no way it's going to work for you.
Gotcha.
That's not going to happen.
And yeah, when you end up with Eli and Dylan on the same team, you're saying they even drove to a test session together. I think people are always worried about how these guys are going to get along. But what I've heard over and over is, I would assume they're not even using the same stuff. What works for one doesn't work for another. I'm sure that's the case here. I've heard it a million times.
Correct. It's completely, they both ride a Yamaha 450. Okay. And from there, they're different handlebars, different suspension, different everything. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be that, hey, this setup right here has won us these championships. You have to ride this setup. It's not going to work for everybody. So, yeah,
but I also think that probably keeps everybody calm, because it's not like, why does he have what I don't have? No, you're just both getting what you want, and it might not even be the same. So don't even worry about that clutch lever he got, because you don't even want that.
Absolutely. And if ever there was a time that Dylan walked up to me and said, hey, I want everything that's on Eli's bike, no problem, you'll have it tomorrow. Or opposite. If they said, Eli, I want it, no problem.
Yep.
So that's why I think it's better like this, because yeah, sure. But I'll throw your number plates on, go ride it, you know? It's
Gosh.
no big, there's no secrets, or there's no anything, you know, we're an open book to all of our riders.
Sometimes the simplest philosophy might be the best. And it goes to one other thing I want to ask about the bike that you told me last year. The general philosophy on 450s is they're too fast or too powerful. We're trying to rein them in. And you told me that you guys, when you first dove in, at least, you were trying to do the opposite: build power first, worry about the rest later. So can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's still the same philosophy. You know, we and Eli is number one example. You know, obviously before Eli, we hadn't had anybody come from a different team. Or maybe Malcolm, but so when Eli got on the bike, he was blown away of the power. Like, just could not believe how much power this motorcycle had, but rideable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our biggest thing. We're going to get as much horsepower as we can possibly get, start there, and then come backwards if we have to. But we don't want to work up. So we want to give you everything we got, make it as rideable as possible, because that is important. That nobody can state the fact that you don't need power to pass somebody or to get a start. I mean, JGR is prime example when they were on Yamahas. They had the fastest bike there was, and look how many hole shots those guys got. So that's something that's important. You know, once again, it goes back to what I was saying. When you have 15 guys that can win this class, you need to be up front off the gate. And that's how we're doing that, is feeding it as much power as possible, making it as rideable as possible. And if we have to work backwards, we'll work backwards, but we don't want to have to try to find it.
It's like the most simple philosophy in racing. You're trying to build the fastest and the lightest bike you can. That's basically how we start. Fastest and lightest. That's where we go.
Correct. Yep. Fastest and lightest. And if we have to add weight or slow it down, we will. But we got to be the best before we can, you know, knock it down.
I'll let you go here in a minute. Just a few other quick things. On that weight thing, how much is there's like an internal durability standard that ends up adding weight and things like that that maybe you don't have to deal with? Because again, you guys are just doing whatever you think works. Does that maybe affect the way other people run their teams?
Yeah, absolutely. But we still follow that standard. You know, we don't want to make the lightest motorcycle that's going to break.
Sure.
So we know that we're smart enough, we think, to know that where we can and can't get away with it. You know, if it's something that we know can be light enough that if it falls off the motorcycle, we're still going to finish the race, that's what I do. But if we know that if we make it so light and it fails that we're not going to finish the race, that's where we draw the line. So yeah, when it comes to weight, we take the weight away in spots that we know that if something happened to it, it's not going to affect us. That's the biggest thing.
So my last thing here is looking in the future. So, okay, for a long time we thought this reverse motor, the 450, it just can't work, especially in Supercross. You've obviously fixed that in a hurry. But do you still have factory enough, like relationship with Japan, future bikes? Have you seen future bikes? Are they taking data from you? Are you taking data from them? How's that all work? Because eventually there'll be a clean sheet and you'll still be the team here. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Our relationship with Yamaha Japan is really good. We communicate with them weekly. They get our race reports. We get their, you know, they're still racing over there. We get their race reports. All of Yamaha collective works really well together. YME, Yamaha Europe, Yamaha Australia, us, Yamaha Japan. So everybody sees everybody's reports, what they're doing, and then we all learn maybe what we can help them or what they can help us with. So yeah, we're all in this together of developing future motorcycles. Right now, we have a really good 450 that we're ready to race as long as we need to race it. There's nothing that we think can be really better right now. And long term down the road, sure, but right now we just got to keep going with what we're going on.
Yeah, it's working really well. And I know you had this vision and you maybe expected it, but it still has to feel so sweet to see red plates and race wins on that bike. And I know you want to get Dylan up there as well, but it's still got to be pretty satisfying the way it's gone right now.
Absolutely. It's been incredible. I think we'll see a lot more of what we saw at San Diego with double podiums. People still have to understand that Dylan's still a rookie. I mean, Eli's got a lot more years on Dylan. And once again, when you line up next to 15 guys that can win, it takes a little bit for you to gain confidence and know when you look to your left and right that you can beat these guys. So right now, Dylan has that confidence in motocross. So he can line up and tell him I'm going to beat all you guys. He's still learning that in Supercross, and he'll get there. I mean, he's obviously has the speed. We see it every weekend in qualifying. He's either first or second every weekend. It's just one of those things with him. We have to learn how to take it when the lights turn on, and he's going to get there. He's no doubt in my mind he's going to be a champion in Supercross as well as he is in motocross. So we just got to keep him motivated, confident in himself, and learn how to believe in himself. But it's pretty good. It feels very good knowing that my vision is coming to reality, and just got to keep going. I tell everybody, the same thing with this red plate situation, that I don't care who has the red plate to the last lap of the last race. So that's what it's most important to me is when it comes down to Salt Lake, who still has that red plate.
Oh yeah, number one goal on teams. I always say you got to play dumb. When things are going really well, you have to keep doubting yourself. You have to keep thinking it's going to be over in 5 minutes or next weekend. It's obvious on the outside it's going well, but you can't even almost tell yourself that completely, right? You have to keep striving.
Absolutely, that's one thing. When we had the red plate after San Diego, red plate, I want to take pictures, do interviews. No, I said I want everybody to envision that is still a white number plate. That is not red number plate, and that's not a red number plate until it says number 1 on it. So that's kind of how we're living it out here. Is we're still striving to be better every single day during the week, because we know that they're going to catch us. That's how it is. I mean, Jason just had a great race, and he's right there. So if we can become content and happy with where we're at, it's going to bite us. So we're trying to be better every single day.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for squeezing in time while you're trying to do that and being a new dad. I don't know even know why you agreed to do this, but I appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime.
Awesome. See you in Minneapolis. Are you back on schedule?
I'll be there. I'll be there. That's my one race in 7 years.
Oh gosh, that's not a lot. See ya.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.